and gentlemen, welcome back to another very special, as always, episode of the HyperConscious podcast. We hope you enjoyed our latest episode where Alan and I sat down and we did a small talks episode on your core values and what they mean to you. Today, for episode number 345, we are going to do a scratching the surface episode on overcoming your bottlenecks.
So I have a framework that I've been doing. A lot of you know that I've been transitioning from fitness coaching to business coaching. And what's really interesting is that there's one common denominator, which is the biggest thing that holds us back is a bottleneck that we must find and then do something about it. So I have this sort of framework that I take everybody through. And to me, there are 4 types of people in business or fitness or life, really. But we'll talk about business specifically just for this framework. And if you don't own a business, think about your own life. So number 1 is there is no system. In other words, you're kind of drifting around. You do what you kind of feel like doing. You're probably chasing pleasure at the expense of fulfillment, and you feel a little bit lost. Okay, we've all been there. I've been there. Kevin's been there.
Oh, yeah.
I would say that's about 95% of people. So imagine there's 100 people in a room. 95 people have no system at all, and that's more common. Number 2, you have a system, but it's not based on sound principles. In other words, it's based on myth truths or mistruths. Sorry, I had to burp there. My apologies. So I was reading a book yesterday by Gary Keller, and he talks about the myth understandings in the real estate industry. And it was so cool to have him do what we did on an episode. Remember when we did 10 truths or 10 misbeliefs that are holding you back? And we highlighted what was one common one, just for reference?
Oh, boy. You can't teach an old dog new tricks.
Exactly. That's not true. And we replaced it with the truth of, you can teach an old dog new tricks. It's just harder because their habits are more ingrained. Okay, so that's an example of a misbelief versus a truth belief. Okay, so number 1, no system at all. That's 95% of people, 95 people out of 100. Number 2, they have a system, but it's not based on the truth. It's not based on sound principles, and it's not customized to their own unique goals, unique core values, unique strengths and weaknesses. Number 3, they do have a system. It is based on sound principles. It is customized to your unique goals and core values, strengths and weaknesses, but it is not executed against consistently. Now, number 4, Kevin used to be number 1 prior to the HyperConscious podcast, and now he's number 4. Number 4, and just to take you through the numbers, number 1 is 95 people, I think. This is just guesses based on my understanding. That means that approximately probably 3 for having a system but not based on sound principles. Then number 3 would be probably 1.5 people, and then about 0.5%, I believe, are number 4. So our goal, if you're a listener to this podcast, is to get you to number 4. And the cool part about this episode is let's identify where you are and let's get you to level 4 like Kevin has gotten to. So number 4 is you do have a system. It is based on sound principles. It is customized to your unique goals and dreams and your unique core values and based on your strengths. And you execute against it consistently. That person is winning. And we want everyone on this podcast to have a successful life. And I honestly believe this framework will help everybody.
Yeah, again, like we've done the System of Success episodes, right? It's part of it. This is definitely part of it. But what Alan is talking about is creating some sort of system that is going to move the needle on the things that are the most important.
So for you texted me this morning saying that you're more on point than you've ever been with your habits.
Yeah.
And so I think a system of success is just a series of habits that matter the most.
I agree. Yep.
And so can you talk a little bit to the listeners about what it was like to be number 1 and how you got to level 4 really in this framework?
I think that what it was like to be number 1, I definitely was chasing pleasure at the expense of my future for sure. 100%. It still is that. It basically, that's what the system does for me. Not only does it tell me what to do, it helps me to feel productive because I feel bad about myself when I'm not productive. That's something I'm trying to work through because I know that's deeper seated. And it also, it keeps me accountable.
Let's say you heard this framework when you were before the podcast, you were at work. What would you have thought?
I wouldn't know what the quality of your system is only based on the quality of your vision. Really, like my fitness system has always worked. Did I ever know it was a system? No, not really. At this point, it's just It's kind of unconscious. I just kind of do it. But I think that you have to first say like, okay, this is what I want. And for a long time, after I left my job, I had money. So I didn't necessarily, like, I wasn't worried about clients. I didn't know that was going to be a thing.
Right.
I think that it depends on where you are in your journey, because you might be in the part of your journey where you're understanding what is actually going to happen next. Right. So, when you're getting a house built, what do? You blueprint. Then
Right.
what? Then after the blueprint, you have check-ins. Like, okay, the first week we're expected to do this. The second week we're expected to do this. And then as we get later, we'll coordinate when you guys can move in. All it is a system. It's a system of success that is followed consistently until the final product is done.
When
And
you were a foreman, you used to be in charge of this, but for a project, right?
yeah, but I wasn't nearly this organized. I wasn't nearly this intentional.
Right.
Because at the beginning, it's funny, I was talking to Taryn about this the other day. At the beginning of the week, they would say, okay, this job is 320 man hours. You have four people on your crew. Okay. So that means every day costs me 32 hours. Every 8-hour day is 32. Okay. That means I only have 10 full 8-hour days to get this job done. Then I go down the list. Okay. The doors, they should take this long. All right. He's faster on doors. I got to put him on doors because we got to get those done quick. So that for me was my system. My system was knowing the parts.
So you had a system for that, but not for your life.
No, because my life was just to make money. That system was taken care of.
So technically that was the system for your life. Interesting.
I think the system for your life for a lot of people is somebody else. It's the job you go to. It's the time clock. Like, that's what it is. If you're trying to get better at your job, you are getting better at a system.
But it's not yours necessarily.
It might not be yours. Maybe you love your job and you want to be the best real estate agent in the world. I don't know.
Right.
I don't know. But I remember for me, it was just, what do I feel like doing now? And this is something that I say all the time. Like, there was no downside of me not doing something. Where today, I got up at 5:30. I did my entire system of success minus 2 things. And it was 11 o'clock. And I told Taryn, like, I think I'm done. And she's like, what do you mean? And I said, I think I'm just going to, like, kind of lay low. We're not podcasting till 4 tonight. Then we have the mastermind. Then we're going to do our check-in. I know that this is kind of the biggest rocks for the day is the podcast, the mastermind, and my check-in.
Right.
Everything else I needed to do got done. So knowing your system not only helps you work smarter, but it helps you rest smarter if that's something you want to do.
Right. Like you could take that free time and it'll be peaceful and permissions. Like, it's interesting because you're not going to feel guilty taking that time knowing that you're still crushing it in your life.
But that takes time.
Exactly.
To not only build the momentum up where I'm starting with another client this week, right? So, like, it's almost in the back of my head. It's like, well, you can take a day because one of these days this week is probably going to be insane because you're going to be doing a bunch of things for a new client while, taking care of your other clients while podcasting, so I a lot of times it's for me to look into the future a little bit and say, like, all right, take a day today with the intention that tomorrow you can hammer it.
So I believe I've witnessed you go from number 1 all the way to number 4 over time. And now at number 4, the bottleneck for you is making your system even more effective as you grow and evolve. And that's where I am as well. So if you're listening right now, the goal of this episode is not to make you feel bad about where you are. It's to identify where you are. Because the first step, Bob Proctor said this on the thing that I've been listening to regularly. He basically said, if we were in an airplane and we parachuted down, the first thing we need to figure out is where we are before we figure out where we want to go. And so it's interesting. You definitely need to know where you want to go, but first let's identify where you are. So if you're number 1, you have no system at all, that's okay. Let's just understand that. Let's look at the truth. Number 2, you have a system, but maybe it's not based on sound principles. Maybe you need some coaching. Okay. Maybe you need to get clear on your goals and dreams and figure out the leverage points underneath that. Maybe you need to get more clear on your core values. We just did an episode on that. Okay. Maybe you don't know your strengths or weaknesses yet. Maybe you don't know what skills you can bring to the marketplace, whatever it is. Number 3, you do have a system, but maybe you're not executing against it consistently because you need accountability. I was on the phone with a client yesterday and I asked her, like, what do you think your biggest bottleneck is right now? And she said, honestly, I took her through this whole thing. And she said, I think it's consistency. What we figured out is that she had a fear of something that we didn't realize. I'll just keep it high level here, but basically she's growing her personal training business, and she's on a leaderboard where she has the most bookings for the month of April compared to everybody else. And this is like publicly posted, but she's not converting them as well. And so I figured out, okay, now we realize you're inconsistent, not because you're not doing a good job at getting bookings, but probably because you don't want to increase your bookings and then still have your conversion rate low, because her conversion rate was like 12.5%. And so she didn't want to look bad. Again, we all have that fear of judgment, so it is what it is. Now that we have identified the bottleneck of why she wasn't being consistent, now we can work on it, and we did. And I taught her how to convert, and it's absolute fire. I have no doubt she's going to crush it now. So number 3, again, you have a system, but maybe you're not doing it consistently. Maybe you need some accountability. Come to our mastermind. We'll help hold you accountable. Hire a coach, whatever it is. Number 4, you do have a system. You are doing it consistently and sustainably, and it is based on sound principles. In this case, you just need to continue to grow your awareness and perfect your system along the way. Because, for example, what Kevin and I thought at the beginning of this journey mattered in podcasting doesn't now.
Yeah.
We realize now that certain things we thought would make a big difference really haven't. So when you're at number 4, the key is to stay consistent and to learn along the way and make sure that you're staying focused only on the things that matter most, and then checking in with the system and going, you know what, maybe this is not the leverage point I thought it was.
Well, and the other thing too is as you evolve, the things on your system of success are going to do less, kind of, right? So like, let's just say that you're going to the gym and you've learned how to squat, you've learned how to bench press, you've learned how to do lunges, you've learned how to do all the muscle groups. Now it's time to figure out, okay, what is a rep range from 4 to 12 do? Or we'll say 6 to 12. What is a rep range from 2 to 6 do? Like anything over 15, what does that do? Okay, now I want to target different angles. Oh, now I want to bring up my nutrition. There's always more to learn, so you have to continuously check in. Right. Like a plane. A plane has a system of success. Before they take off, they go through the system every time.
Right.
The first plane ever created, I guarantee the system is way different now.
Oh, the system was probably brutal the first time. There probably was no system, man.
Turn on? Yes.
Yeah. Okay, then let's go.
As you get bigger in business or whatever it is, you have to continue to evolve that system because things are going to change and you're not going to get the same results that you did at one point. It's just going to have to improve. Can we tell them? So we're talking about bottlenecks. What is a bottleneck? What is the definition of a bottleneck?
So if you picture a water bottle, like picture a gallon of milk, but the spout is tiny. You're not going to be able to get a lot of milk out in a short amount of time. So a bottleneck is something that's like a kink in your hose, so to speak. Like you want to get more water, more output, but you're not. There's something holding back the flow. So if you don't feel like you're winning in your life, it's most likely one of these. You probably fit into one of these frameworks. And until you know which one you fall in, you don't necessarily know where the bottleneck is. So James Clear has that great quote that I always say, which is, you will not rise to the level of your ambition. You will actually fall to the level of your systems. I just got off a coaching call with my aunt Joanne, who runs a financial firm, and now she's running her firm financially, virtually. And they're actually growing tremendously during this Corona thing, which she said, God bless, thank goodness. But her systems are unreal, man. Right. They're unreal because you realize patterns when you start studying successful people. I remember, I say this on my speeches, I've told you this, Kev. When I first saw her calendar, when she first started coaching me 2 years ago, it freaked me out, man. And now I told her today on the call, like, Auntie, my calendar's starting to look a lot like yours does. And she's like, how could it not? How could it not? You're not just going to wake up and have success. Like, I was thinking about this earlier today, man. Why do we have it in our head that it's supposed to be easy? Why do we have it in our head that we want huge rewards for minimal effort? You can do more in less time if you are willing to develop a system. You don't have to work your face off, but you do have to work really smart and consistently. And so that's what Kevin and I want to help you do. I don't know what your life looks like right now. I don't know what your dream life looks like. But if you get clear on those two things, I promise you that getting to the point where you have a system developed on sound principles that consistently and sustainably you execute against, you're going to be absolute fire.
How do you know, like, say you're a 4, say you're on number 4, you have your system, you're executing against it, it's all the things that move the needle, you're still going to have bottlenecks. How do
Yeah.
you know where to look in terms of like a specific?
One simple question would be, what's not working? So where am I getting the biggest return on investment based on my goal? So we have a goal right now of 5 million listens in 2020 that I write out every day.
Same.
And if so we do analytics. So I have a spreadsheet, and I know you have your own as well. So we have a spreadsheet
Much
of look.
less complicated than yours.
Yeah. Yeah, true. So across all platforms, I track as consistently as I can, probably every 3 or 4 days, how much the podcast listens are growing to see whether or not our systems of success are working or not working based on our most important goal. Now, we don't want listens for the sake of listens. We want to change people's lives. And that's how you know where a bottleneck is. You measure. You measure things, and you figure out what's working and not working. Because at the end of the day, I mean, I can guarantee you, I coached someone who just started a podcast. I'll just say this. I was on the phone with Doc Jen Fit recently and her fiance, and they started a podcast called Optimal Body, and I was helping them with their podcast and their business. And they have a bottleneck. They're crushing it, and they still have very obvious bottlenecks from an outside perspective that they could do better. You're never going to get to a point where you couldn't do something better. I mean, you and I, at the beginning of the core values episode that we just recorded earlier, I said, Kev, we like seriously need to get better at certain things. And you're like, yeah, man, I know. So I think understanding where your bottleneck is, it's figuring out what part of your life needs the most work based on what you value most.
What is one of your bottlenecks right now? You're on 4. You have a good system that's catered, that's specific. What is something that you're dealing with that's a bottleneck?
I appreciate that question, man. And so I actually just last night, I went through my numbers, and for the first time in a long time, I have my cash out done every single day for the entire month of April so far. So I actually went through and I did an analysis. This was a statistical analysis. Shout out to one of my clients who did a statistical analysis and made me want to do this. I tracked my productivity. So for the listeners, I have a system of success that I execute against every single day, and I do cash out. So cash out for me is how well did I do? I have 18 things in a given day that I want to get done. How many did I get done? Okay, that's simple. So let's say I get 14 out of 18. That's going to be probably around like correct me if I'm wrong, probably 65% day. Okay. I went through the entire month of April, and I tracked Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays, Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays, and I averaged them. It turns out that my most productive day by far, I would not have thought this until I had the data, is Saturday. Saturdays I've been hanging out with Emilia, and we've been getting a lot done. And because she goes and does her thing, I go and do my thing. And then we reconvene at night for date night. But Sundays are my least productive day. So I have a 69.5% average productivity on Saturdays right now, executing on my current system. And on Sundays, I have a 37% or something like that. Sunday is kind of family day. So I know where my bottleneck is. My bottleneck is Sunday. How can I try to do more on Sunday without giving up family time? And answering that question, I mean, if you do that consistently, week to week, month to month. Say again?
You have an answer?
I think, so Emilia and I decide to sleep in, and we tend to stay up late on Saturdays, and we sleep in on Sundays. That's kind of our one morning to sleep in. And I think that I would rather us go to bed a little earlier on Saturday. I still have to talk to her about this. But the other reason why I'm unproductive, the bottleneck, is we do check-ins. And I think, so we just designed a new system. We're actually taking quiet time before the check-in to actually write out the things. So for example, significance. What are 3 ways she made me feel significant this week? And then what's one improvement? So before we even check in, we're already having the answers, because it's much more efficient. Because a lot of times in our check-in, we'll take like 2 or 3 hours at times, because those conversations, as you know, can get heavy. But in a good way, So,
I forgot what I was going to say. Oh, you could get up earlier. Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
So for me, and again, it also depends on what your system is. This is something that I'm going to start preaching. If you can get the majority of your system done in the first thing in the morning, you will be fired. I get 70% of my system done before 6 a.m.
Dude, there's a direct correlation
Because
between productivity and
you're
how
stuck
early
in
you
one
wake up.
spot.
Yeah.
And you can get it all done. Like when you start adding in things like, oh, I'll do that after the podcast episode. You might not.
I know.
I
Because
know
things come up.
Exactly.
Right.
Or like you end up on a podcast late, or there's a breakthrough that you have to talk about, or there's a business or whatever. Right. For me, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 on this board next to me. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I have 12 things on here. 7 of them I do first thing in the morning.
Yeah.
And I don't ever miss. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I don't ever miss because it's not a huge time crunch. It doesn't take like a tremendous amount of time.
So this is not me just building you up, although I want to do that as well because that's awesome. Kevin probably gets more done in the morning than some people get done all day.
Probably.
And if you want a successful life, you have to look at your prolific output. You don't just get things for no reason, right? And if you want big rewards for no effort, you're going to have to go play the lottery. And I'm just kind of being brash about that because I just don't think that's the way to get fulfilled. I have a client right now who literally reached out to me like so grateful, like, oh my God, I can't believe my life right now. Like I have people reaching out to me for help. I have clients, like I feel so fulfilled, like I'm chasing my dreams. I finally believe in myself. And it's like, for the last couple years though, that person has been on the struggle bus. It's been really hard. They've been disconnecting with non-like-minded people. They've been losing old friends. They've been going through all the growing pains you and I talk about. But look at that. Look at her life is so well designed now. So if you want to have a well-designed life based on success, like you're going to have to probably get up early. You're going to have to probably go to bed earlier. I mean, I told Emilia yesterday in our check-in, like, sweetheart, I've been kind of letting myself down a little because I want to try to get us in bed earlier. Because she can grind on like 5 hours of sleep. She's like you, man. You guys can go on no sleep. And I end up taking naps. Yeah. And like, I know she'll grind it out. Like she'll go to work. Then after work, like she'll just go the whole day without sleep. And I just don't, I don't want to see her burning down. So
the other thing too is like, yeah, sure, I might get more done than somebody in the morning, but I also probably shut down earlier. That's the other thing too. Like
you're good at that. Yeah.
When 3:30, 4, it depends. It depends on what, like I think I worked a 14-hour day the other day. I worked 5:30 to like 7:30. And then another day, I think I worked 5:30 to 10. But it depends on what there is. Like today. So the day that we're recording this, I literally worked for 4.5 hours today. I'm happy with what I got done. I'm talking to clients, so I know my client. It depends. And maybe you're not an early riser. Maybe you'd rather stay up late. Maybe that works for you. That used to work really well for me when I was single and I lived alone. I would stay up till 3 a.m. But if I don't get up early now, I don't feel good. I don't feel like I started my day right if I don't do my meditation, my gratitude, my foam rolling, and my mobility, my journaling. I don't feel right. I don't feel on purpose if I don't do that first thing in the morning.
Kev, your life has the quality of your life has increased drastically since the start of this podcast, right? So like, just for a reference point, 0 to 10 in terms of fulfillment, like a deeply meaningful life, what do you think you used to live?
Dude, 1, 2.
Okay. What do you think now?
Fulfillment? I'm probably at like an 8 or 9.
Hell yeah.
I'm way up there.
I guess the only reason I asked this is because you have like so much to live for now, and we both do, and we have these lives that we just love. Even during quarantine with all those challenges, like we still love our life, and I feel like if everyone felt that way, it would be a much better place. Yeah. So I guess when it comes to the system of success, be completely honest. You don't have to endorse it if you don't want, of course. But like, how much of this framework would you attribute to having a well-designed life that like is fulfilling you now?
I always say, like, when your habits fall, so does the rest of your life.
Right.
And these are the best way. And the thing is, like, mine will look different than yours. If you don't have a business, it's not going to say client prospecting on it. But like, if you came to Alan or myself and said, hey, these are the 3 things I'm looking for. I'm looking to be more connected in my relationship. I want to get in better shape. And, I want to grow my social media following, whatever the 3 things are. We could break those into 15 steps, 5 things you do in each thing every day, and you wouldn't make progress as long as you consistently did them.
No, you would make progress. You said wouldn't.
I know. I think I just you would make progress as long as you did them consistently and over a long enough period of time. And I think that's kind of what it is. It's accountability. Like, again, I show this all the time, but my board is right here. My board is right next to me at all times. At all times, it's next to me. And then Taryn and I have that board behind us.
Oh, that's awesome.
Where we both have things. But it's just, you're already doing habits. You're already doing some form of habits. Do they serve you, or do they take you away from your goals? How cognizant and conscious are you actually of the habits you're doing? Do you even know that you're spending $3 a day at Dunkin' Donuts? $3 a day times, we'll say $25 a week. That's 75 times 52. Like, how do you know that you're spending $3,500 a year on coffee?
I calculated it in 20 years with an 8% ROI. It's a $65,000 Mercedes-Benz for a $3 coffee a day.
And again, don't listen to me, because I stop at Dunkin' Donuts every time.
Yeah. But at least you're doing it consciously.
Right. Or do you know that, if you have if you have 2 glasses of wine every night, figure it's 250 calories extra times 7, 25, 50, 75,000, 1250. What's that? 1,750 calories. Okay.
Per week.
Theoretically 3,500 calories in a pound. So every 2 weeks you'll gain a pound. So you'll gain 26 pounds a year. Do you know that? No. Okay.
Wow.
So then you start, that's the thing. You already have habits. You already have a system in place. It's probably an unconscious one.
It's probably an unconscious one, yeah.
This one becomes unconscious when you do it long enough. I don't have to look at this in the morning. I know what I should do. Now, if I don't do it, that's me choosing. That's me choosing, not because I don't know what to do.
The best thing I can say here too, my aunt said something that you just said. She said, some days I wake up and I work 2 hours. Other days it's 12. Like, I get to choose.
Right.
And the thing is, she's learned how to be so effective in such little time and make sure she's focused on the things that matter most for her and her business and her life. Like, you have your relationship with Taryn. You want a magnificent relationship. You have the podcast and the business. You want a magnificent podcast and business. You have your physique. I know with quarantine you haven't been working out, but you have a system for your fitness.
Yeah.
You have a system for your relationship. You have a system for your business. We have a system for our partnership. Systems will help your life improve so drastically. You'll ignite the power of the compound effect. And that's really what Kevin and I really want for all of you, because we've seen it transform people.
And you can work smarter.
Right.
Like, if I used to say this all the time, then we'll go because we have another episode to do before our mastermind. I used to say, if I got paid, if I could do 8 hours of work in 4 hours, I could do it. But you make me stay here for 8, so I'm going to drag it out and make it 8. Imagine if every day you knew exactly what you had to get done to move the needle. You can do it as fast or as slow as you want. Right. But you have to know first. You have to know first. It's unreasonably important. It's a game changer. It's something that Al and I both, my clients are all on some form of this.
Yeah.
And then you have specialty ones when it comes to podcasts. Okay, you're a podcast client. You have a system of success too. Right. How often are you posting on social media?
Right.
How many episodes you do in a week? Are you having guests? That sort. How's your audio quality? You're going to make sure that's good. Right. It's just, people don't become successful by accident.
And we have a bird's eye view of that because we interview so many people, and because we have so many clients, and because we work on our own life and mentors too. This is the common denominator. Like, we didn't make this up. We just uncovered it.
Yeah.
And if you're number 1, 2, 3, or 4, just figure out which one you want to get to. If you want no system and you're just a free spirit, that's totally fine. But at least now you're consciously choosing that and understand what results that's going to bring.
And then it's not easy at the beginning.
Right.
You're building, not only are you building one new habit, you're building a bunch of new habits probably.
Right.
So expect to just, it might not go amazing the first time. Like, it took me a long time to get to where I am now.
Right. Took 3.5 years, man.
Yeah. And when I level up to the next thing, right, then it's going to take a little bit for me to get onto that. So, it's one of those things where you got to know what you want first.
Amen.
How do you know what to build, or what materials you need if you haven't decided what the house looks like? Right. Is it wood? Is it, what's the roof? Is it metal? Is it shingles?
Right. And you're going to need an electrician. You're going to need a plumber. You're going to need help. So right. Kevin and I are here for you. Please reach out.
Please do. All right. We got to get out of here.
Yep.
Who's our guest? Who do we have?
We have Matt Zinman.
Matt Zinman.
Also,
Go ahead.
before you go, the private Facebook group and the weekly mastermind, I want to talk to you about it real quick. So if you go to the hyperconsciouspodcast.com, click on join #HyperConsciousNation, you'll be entered into our private Facebook group. There's a like-minded community of people with systems, dream chasers in there. Also, every week, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. As a matter of fact, Kevin and I are about to jump on that shortly.
Yes, yes.
Every single week, we're going to be helping you dial in your systems for free. Come join us, connect with other people. Emilia is already connecting with people that she met on the mastermind. I see other people doing that. It's pretty awesome. Tiff, it's the same deal. Amy, she commented in HyperConscious Nation, and so many people reached out to help her. It's such a beautiful thing. So please join us for those masterminds. Again, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time every Monday. They're completely free. Come join us, talk hyperconscious, and HyperConscious Nation private Facebook group, the hyperconsciouspodcast.com, #join HyperConscious Nation.
Some would say change the way you think, change the way you act, change the way you live.
Fact.
Some would say. Ladies and gentlemen, we hope you enjoyed this episode, and we will talk to you on Sunday.
Talk to you soon.